It's now 7 o'clock. I call the meeting to order on the meeting of the Elmer Town Council of June 17th, 2026. I noticed an absence. We'll begin with a moment of reflection and respect. Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda resolution.
That council adopts the agenda for the meeting of June 17th, 2026 with the following amendments. Addition of correspondence received from Hugh McKenzie, Cynthia Grant, and Steve Blankenship regarding item 5.2.2, application for zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 01-26, 103 Sydenham Street and 32 and 50 Center Street.
Are there any other additions? Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Barber and Councillor Chapman. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. The delegations and public meetings. First begin with a committee of adjustment. We need a resolution to recess and commence the committee.
The council does now recess and commence the Committee of Adjustment meeting at 7:02 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Zosier and Councillor Chapman. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
The Committee of Adjustment of the Town of Elmer is convened to consider application for minor variance A08-26 regarding 124 Sydenham Street West. Additional information related to the application is available for inspection between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. weekdays at Elmer Town Hall. Signed written submissions are accepted by the Secretary-Treasurer prior to or during the hearing, and such submissions shall be available for inspection by any interested party. If a party who is notified does not attend the hearing, the committee can proceed and the party is not entitled to any further notice of hearings. The submission or request for notice can be sent to clerks@town.elmer.on.ca. A copy of the decision will be mailed to those persons who have attended or represented at the hearing and those who have filed a written request with the Secretary for notice of the committee's decision. The committee will hear input in the following order: presentation of the staff report by the Manager of Planning and Development, the agent or applicant, the public, staff, and the clerk. Application 08-26 is made by Bernard Fair, owner represented by Jared Blatz, regarding the property known municipally as 124 Sydenham Street West. The purpose of this variance is to facilitate the severance of two existing joined dwellings to create individual parcels.
Thank you. Could the Manager of Planning and Development please provide a report? Heather?
Thank you, Your Worship. The owner is requesting relief from the following residential Type 2 R2 zone provisions to facilitate the creation of the residential parcels. So for the proposed severed parcel, that's the house that fronts onto Sydenham Street West. So for that parcel, the owner is requesting to increase the maximum deck porch projection for the existing deck from 1.5 meters to 1.7 meters. To decrease the minimum lot area from 370 square meters to 358.3 square meters, to decrease the required minimum front yard depth from 7 meters to 1.95 meters. Again, this is for the existing dwelling. Reduce the minimum exterior side yard width from 7 meters to 5.05 meters. And in terms of for the proposed retained parcel, to reduce or To reduce the minimum front yard depth from 7 meters to 3.75 meters, and reduce the minimum rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 4.3 meters, as well as increase the lot coverage from 35% to 35.6%. And again, these deficiencies are simply because of the existing homes and the location of these existing homes, and in particular, the one home that fronts onto Sydenham Street West. That home is quite an older home, and it predates any zoning bylaw that has ever been established in the town. Figure 1 shows the location of the property located on the south side of Sydenham Street West, the southeast corner of Sydenham Street West and Raglan Street. Figure 2 shows the proposed minor variance, which is the proposed, the severance drawing that has been submitted for this application. Application was circulated to town staff and public agencies for comment. No comments of concern were submitted by town staff and public agencies. At the time of submission of my report, no comments were received from neighboring property owners. In terms of the 4 tests of the minor variance, the first test is the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan, and yes, it does. The property is designated medium-density residential, and various dwelling types, including single detached dwellings and accessory uses, are permitted. The proposed variances will not contravene the official plan policies. Second test, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? And the answer is yes. The residential type 2 R2 zone permits single detached dwellings, semi-dwellings, duplex dwellings, converted dwellings, home occupation, and other types of uses similar to low-density residential uses. The proposed severed parcel is deficient, as I mentioned, lot area, front yard depth, and exterior side yard width, and has an encroachment into the required front yard greater than the permitted due to the existing front porch. The proposed retained parcel, as I've mentioned, is deficient in front yard and rear yard depths and requires a slight increase in maximum lot coverage. These deficiencies are due to the existing locations of the dwellings. The dwellings have been in existence for decades and have been independent of each other. Landscaped area, for amenity area and stormwater management will not be impacted from the severance and from the variances. Except for the requested variances, the proposal meets all other R2 zone regulations. The third test is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the property. And yes, it is. There is still lots of area for stormwater to be absorbed, and grassed areas between the lots will still provide adequate space for property maintenance and use of the lands. A small vestibule that joined the 2 dwellings together will be removed as a condition of the severance. I can state that it has already been removed, which will provide some additional buffering between the lot lines of the dwellings. The variance will not compromise the existing and proposed development of this neighborhood. Fourth and final test is the variance minor in nature, and yes, it is. The variance will have a minimal impact with respect to the environment, municipal functions, and surrounding property owners. So in conclusion, the minor variance is desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land, meets the intent and purpose of the official plan policies and zoning bylaw regulations, and I'm recommending that the request for the proposed application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. The next item is the applicant present, and if so, do you wish to speak to the application?
Yes, I'm present.
If you would approach the microphone, please, and give your name.
Yes, I'm present. George Blatz.
Just hang on a minute, we'll turn the mic on.
Yes, I'm present. George Blatz, but I don't have anything to say about the matter.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
I don't have anything to say on the matter.
Okay, thank you. Item 6, are there any members of the public who wish to speak concerning this matter? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all right. With no further discussion, the committee will now consider the following resolution. Owen, can you read that?
That report Plan 18-26, Planning Evaluation Report Application for Minor Variance A06-26, 124 Sydenham Street West be received, and that the application for minor variance seeking relief from the zoning bylaw as follows for the proposed severance One, that the maximum projection into the required rear yard for the existing porch shall not exceed 1.7 meters, that the minimum lot area shall not be no less than 358.3 meters squared. Three, that the minimum front yard depth for the existing dwelling shall be no less than 1.95 meters. Four, that the minimum exterior side yard depth for the existing dwelling shall be no less than 5.05 meters. And the proposed retained parcel, one, that the minimum front yard depth for the existing dwelling shall be no less than 3.75 meters. Two, that the minimum rear yard depth for the existing dwelling shall be no less than 4.3 meters. And three, that the maximum lot coverage shall not exceed 36%. Be approved.
Okay, thank you. Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Councillor Oslach. Seeing there was no further discussion, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Now we will have a resolution to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment.
That the Committee of Adjustment meeting does now close and council reconvene at 7:10 PM.
Mover and seconder, Councillor DeRosier, Councillor Rahi. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next item is we move into a public meeting under the Planning Act. First, we'll need a resolution to enter the public meeting resolution.
The council does now commence a public meeting at 7:11 PM to receive input from the public with respect to application for zoning bylaw amendments 01-26, 32, and 50 Center Street and 103 Sydenham Street.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber and Councillor DeRosier. Okay. All right. And enter the public meeting. So I guess vote all those in favor of entering the public meeting. Let me do this again. We just have a mover and a seconder to enter the public meeting. So all those in favor of entering the public meeting, thank you very much, and that is carried. Okay. We have a resolution? Or we have no.
This public meeting is taking place under the Planning Act 1990 as amended. Council will hear public representations regarding the application for zoning bylaw amendment 01-26 being made by Cherry Street Housing, represented by Zelinka Primo Limited, Caitlin Crowley. Please note that those who do not provide comment or written submission prior to the decision of the appropriate authority may not be afforded the right to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Council will hear comments in the following order: presentation of the staff report by the Manager of Planning and Development, the agent or applicant, the public, staff, and the clerk.
So let's begin. Could the Manager of Planning and Development please provide her report?
Thank you, Your Worship. The zoning bylaw amendment before you this evening is to rezone the lands identified as the proposed severed parcel, known municipally as 103 Sydenham Street West, from residential office to residential office special provision 10 to permit the severance of the existing single detached dwelling. This RO-10 zoning will have the following zoning deficiencies: a decrease in minimum front yard depth from 7 meters to 4.0 meters, and that is just for the existing dwelling, and a reduction in the minimum interior side yard width from 1.2 meters to 0.4 meters. The lands proposed to be rezoned RO-10 will continue to have the existing single detached dwelling with attached garage and will continue to have access to Sydenham Street West. The purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment is also to rezone the proposed retained parcel, known municipally as 32 and 50 Center Street, and a portion of 103 Sydenham Street West, from residential office to residential multiple second density special provision 15. This is to permit a 3-story, 23-unit residential apartment building. The proposed RM2-15 zone will have the following zoning deficiencies: an increase in the maximum encroachment for the required front yard for a porch from 1.5 meters to 3.5 meters, a decrease in minimum exterior side yard width from 6.88 meters to 2 meters, decrease in minimum rear yard depth from 6.88 meters to 2 meters, decrease in parking from 1.25 spaces per unit plus 0.25 per unit for visitors down to 1 space per unit with no visitor parking provided. And lastly, a decrease in the minimum parking area street line setback from 6 meters to 1.275 meters. This property, this application is also associated with a severance file, E3-26, which has been conditionally approved by Elgin County Land Division Committee. The proposed apartment building will have 1 and 2 bedroom units and will be split between affordable rent of 70 to 79% average market rent and average market rent. So in terms of the 23 units, the split will be 12 units that will be the affordable, and the 11 units, which would be the average market rent. Figure 1 shows the location of the property, located on the north side of Sydenham Street West and the west side of Center Street. Figure 2 shows the proposed development. The main entryway into the building will be on Sydenham Street West, as well as the main access into the property. As part of the planning application, the following was submitted: planning justification report, servicing feasibility study, traffic impact brief and parking justification study, site plan, proposed floor plans, and proposed elevation plans. In terms of the planning policy review, the policies that apply from the provincial planning statement 2024 were reviewed related to intensification and redevelopment, housing, and complete communities, and the proposed application is consistent with the provincial planning statement. Moving on to the County of Elgin official plan, the lands are designated Tier 1 settlement area, which requires full municipal services and permits a wide variety of settlement area uses. The applicable county official plan policies include affordable housing were reviewed, and the proposed application conforms to the county's official plan. Next, in terms of the Town of Elmer official plan, the lands are designated office residential, which permits residential, office, studio, and service commercial uses. It's important to note that new construction shall be sensitive to the residential character of the area and incorporate appropriate residential design features. Structures with this designation shall complement existing adjacent development in terms of its scale, density, and character. It's also important to note the town is required to provide an adequate supply of affordable housing. The town's official plan has incorporated affordable housing policies upon recommendations from St. Thomas and Elgin County Housing Strategy, and to address the requirements of the provincial planning statement regarding the establishment and implementation of minimum targets for affordable housing. Site suitability policies provided a list of criteria to be met prior to development, such as sufficient water and sanitary service capacity, appropriate safe access to local road networks, buffering between the development and adjacent sensitive land uses were also reviewed. The proposed residential apartment building has been reviewed in accordance with all of these policies. The development will be connected to municipal water, sanitary, and storm, and there is sufficient municipal capacity for all services. Traffic impact brief has been prepared, stating that the intersections in the area have reserved capacity to accommodate the additional traffic. Property will also be required to be fenced, which will help to mitigate potential impacts with neighboring land uses. Lastly, the development is also subject to site plan approval, which will further require the development criteria listed in my report is achieved. In the objections section for the residential uses of the official plan, it encourages infill for residential development and intensification of vacant or underutilized parcels of land in residential areas where such development will be compatible and where it can contribute to the more efficient use of sewer and water services and community facilities. Apartment dwelling units provide an alternative housing type and enhance the range of housing opportunities available within the town. The proposed development represents a residential intensification opportunity for Elmer. In terms of section 4.2.35, in terms of medium and high-density residential developments, these developments need to have design considerations for height, massing, arrangement of buildings, open space and landscaping, parking areas, service areas, and design, construction, and maintenance of vehicular, pedestrian, and amenity areas. As explained in the submitted planning justification report, the height of the proposed apartment building has been designed to provide a balance between the 2 to 3 story commercial buildings found to the north of the property and the 1 to 2 story single detached dwellings found to the south of the property. This massing of the building has been designed to relay the design of surrounding single detached dwellings through roof pitch, materials, colors, and window and door openings to provide a suitable design that integrates well with the surrounding area. There is sufficient open space on the property for outdoor communal open space and landscaping. Setbacks have been utilized along property lines to ensure appropriate landscape barriers can be implemented to provide screening and privacy for abutting properties. Parking area has been provided on site with appropriately sized spaces and will integrate well with the building and the landscape area. Service areas have been shown on the site plan and will be part of the site plan approval. Lastly, the proposed development will be located adjacent to Palmer Park Bandshell, which will provide entertainment and recreation opportunities for residents of the development, as well as being within a 5-minute walk from Balmoral Park and Kinsman Park. The proposal meets the Town of Elmer's official plan criteria for apartment building, and therefore the proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the town's official plan. In terms of the zoning bylaw, a zoning bylaw amendment is required to rezone in order to facilitate the proposed development. It's important to note in terms of the proposed severed parcel, the proposed reduction in the front yard is appropriate as it recognizes the existing dwelling which predates any zoning bylaw being in effect in the town. The proposed reduction in the interior side yard is due to the existing wraparound front porch on the home that extends into the side yard along the east lot line. The length of the front porch is about 33 feet, which represents about 35% of the total depth of the lot. The remainder of that interior side yard setback along the east side would be maintaining the minimum 1.2 meters. In terms of the zoning for the apartment building, I've already noted the deficiencies that are being requested. Increasing the maximum encroachment into the required front yard for the proposed porch is appropriate, as it will operate as the main entryway into the building and provide shelter to residents for ingress and egress. The reduced exterior side yard depth will still provide adequate amenity area around the building and buffering between neighboring properties and Center Street. Reducing the rear yard depth will have a minimum impact, as there will still be an amenity area in this area, and it is adjacent to the town's owned alleyway, which provides limited public access. The reduced setback between the parking area and the street line is necessary to maximize the number of off-street and barrier-free parking spaces for this property. Exempting the parking requirements for visitor parking is appropriate for this development, as there is sufficient on-street parking in the area, and it's in close proximity to neighboring municipal parking lots. Reducing the parking requirements for the residential units to 1 space per unit is appropriate due to the walkability of the property for daily needs amenities, and as demonstrated in the submitted parking justification study, several affordable housing sites have lower vehicle ownership and lower parking utilization rates. Additionally, as stated in the parking justification study, parking demand surveys from 3 apartment sites in the town of Hanover, which has comparable characteristics to the town of Elmer, show that the average parking demand was only 0.76 parking spaces per unit. These findings indicate that the proposed parking supply of 1 space per unit will be sufficient for this development. Lastly, it's important to note that the proposed development will meet all other RM2 zone regulations. In terms of other issues and matters, site plan approval will be applied to the subject lands should the application be approved. Site plan approval will address parcel access, on-site parking, landscaping, fencing, on-site snow storage, exterior lighting, servicing, and stormwater management. The application was circulated to town staff and public agencies for comment. The town's Director of Operations and Infrastructure and Canada Post have submitted comments which have been provided to the owner and agent. Catfish Creek Conservation Authority submitted comments indicating they have no concerns. Southwestern Public Health has submitted comments, which I feel are important to read out loud at this meeting. It says that Southwestern Public Health would like to express her support for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Ontario is currently in the midst of a housing affordability and supply crisis, with many residents struggling to meet the rising costs of shelter across the province. This zoning bylaw amendment is intended to facilitate the rezoning of the retained parcel of the subject lands to permit the development of a 3-story residential apartment building with 23 units. Given the aforementioned housing needs in the province, the development that would be enabled by this rezoning would be a welcome addition to the local housing supply. Additionally, it was noted that the proposed apartment building will be split between affordable rent and average market rent. As such, the proposed development would also directly contribute to housing affordability for the town. At the time of submission of my report, I hadn't received any comments from neighboring property owners. However, since the submission of a report, it's my understanding comments have been received by Hugh McKenzie, Cynthia Grant, and Steve Blankenship. In conclusion, it's the planning staff's opinion that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement 2024 and conforms to the County of Elgin official plan and the Town of Elmer official plan, and recommend that the zoning bylaw amendment be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, Heather. Is the applicant and agent present? I think I saw both Ms. Crawley and Mr. Knight. Who's going first? Ms. Crawley is going to go first.
Yes, thank you. Okay, yes. Good evening, mayors, members of council. My name is Caitlin Crowley, planner with Zelinka Priamo, and the agent for this application. I first just wanted to thank Heather for her work on this application and for her presentation. She did provide a good summary of the proposal. So I wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak here tonight. So I am the agent on behalf of Cherry Street Housing, who own the property. I would like to discuss the proposal and the benefit it will bring to Elmer and respond to some of the public comments submitted in advance of this meeting that I have read. At its core, this application represents an opportunity to provide much-needed housing in a location that is within walking distance of shops, services, employment opportunities, community facilities, and public spaces. This proposal has been designed to contribute to the downtown while making efficient use of existing municipal infrastructure. Heather did go over, it consists of a 3-story residential building, 23 residential units. This is a modest form of intensification that reflects provincial and municipal objectives, encouraging housing within existing settlement areas. Planning policy at all levels does encourage housing in locations such as this. The question before council is not whether Elmer will continue to grow, it is how that growth should occur. This proposal directs growth to a location where it can be accommodated most efficiently and sustainably. Elmer continues to experience significant growth and increasing housing demand. Similar to communities across Ontario, there's housing shortages, rising housing costs, and a lack of housing options, primarily for seniors, young adults, and smaller households. The proposed development provides an additional housing choice that currently remains limited within the community. Some comments received prior to this meeting suggest that the building is out of character because it's 3 stories in height. However, 3 stories is considered a low-rise built form. The scale is consistent with many contemporary residential developments across different municipalities in Ontario. The site is located in the downtown area where slightly greater density and building heights are expected. And the development helps support the vitality of downtown businesses and services. A 3-story building represents a reasonable transition between traditional low-density development and the need to accommodate future housing demand. Some comments also suggest reducing the proposal to a lower number of units. A reduction of this scale would significantly diminish the project's ability to contribute meaningfully to local housing supply and would not be able to accommodate the affordable units as proposed. Concerns have also been raised regarding parking and vehicle circulation. The site has been designed with dedicated resident parking at a rate of 1 space per unit, which is consistent with residential standards, which incorporate both market and affordable units. And Heather did kind of go over that breakdown as well in the parking justification study provided. Through the planning review process, staff, engineers, technical reviewers have all assessed the parking matters, vehicular circulation, and it will be continued to be reviewed through the site plan application process. The proposal has been subject to all this review and has been altered quite a few times since the initial design in order to provide a form and layout which suit the policies and guidelines of the town of Elmer. Questions have been raised as well regarding outdoor space and whether families would be accommodated through the proposal. It is important to recognize that not every housing form is intended to serve every single household type. Apartment-style housing is common and an accepted option. And residents of this form of housing benefit from nearby parks, public open spaces, downtown amenities, and community facilities. There is also a common amenity area on the west side of the parking area that would be enhanced through landscaping through the site plan approval process. The proposal broadens housing choices rather than replacing other forms of housing. A healthy community includes a variety of housing options for households at different stages of life. We understand that residents care deeply about Elmer's history and character. That commitment to the community is something that Cherry Street Housing definitely shares. However, planning decisions must balance preservation and the need to accommodate future residents and assist communities as they evolve over time. New development can contribute positively to the next chapter of Elmer's history, while continuing to respect qualities that make the community unique. This proposal represents an investment in Elmer's future and will bring additional residents who will support local businesses, services, and community. We recognize concerns regarding vegetation and the existing landscape. The proposal does include opportunities for new landscaping, improved site organization, enhanced property maintenance, and long-term investment in the property. New landscaping can be designed to soften views of the parking areas, enhance streetscapes, and contribute positively to the surrounding environment. The result will be a well-maintained residential development that contributes to the appearance and function of the downtown area. We appreciate the comments and concerns expressed by residents. However, when evaluated on its planning merits, this proposal represents an appropriate, responsible, and beneficial form of development. It provides new housing opportunities, supports the vitality of downtown Elmer, and contributes positively to the long-term growth and community. So I would like to thank everyone here for coming and for providing comments in advance. I am available throughout this meeting to answer any questions. We also do have representatives from Cherry Street Housing to answer questions as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Crowley. Mr. Knight, did you have anything to add? Thank you.
Purpose of identification, my name is Michael Knight, as you're aware, and I am on the board of directors for Cherry Street. Heather's report and Caitlin's comments were certainly very succinct, and I don't feel that I really need to add anything to it. However, I'm certainly available to answer any questions that council members may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knight. Any members of the public wish to speak to this? Right. There's a member of the public there, I think.
Cynthia Grant. I've seldom followed a refutation of my points by presenting, so there's something very odd in this moment for me. Certainly, the town planner and Ms. Crawley have provided excellent commentary, and it feels very much to us that it's a fait accompli. However, I will still review my submission, which the public in attendance has not seen. I won't read very much of it. So I am an advocate for affordable housing. I sit on a provincial board geared to, it's a nonprofit for senior women. So I'm putting my time into trying to create affordable housing. But I'm also a citizen of Aylmer, and I'm engaged in efforts to preserve the town's character, its heritage, while we're managing a period of growth. So we're seeing a huge number of added housing units in Aylmer, with Willow Run and multiple apartment buildings in the works, let alone backyard additional units. So some of the questions I raised in my letter have been answered, and that is the number of affordable housing units. Perhaps one of the people present can answer who will have access to them. I did some research, and I believe that anyone on the list in St. Thomas will be able to come to Aylmer, whether they're St. Thomas residents or Aylmer residents, which I find to be interesting. And I'm not surprised that Southwestern Public Health has endorsed having more affordable housing. I want more affordable housing. But this is a matter of where. And I'm here not only because Don Durkee can no longer speak, being in his grave, but also because people like John Houston, Stephen Blankenship, Hugh McKenzie, and I had discussed that Aylmer's in a unique position to declare a historic district. And it is a district that extends south of that particular build area. We've done little sketches of what it might be. There's a process you go through. So then you aren't declaring a single home, you're actually declaring an area. It's the ideal way for a community to preserve what is unique. Therefore, I'm quite concerned at this moment. I'd like to compliment Cherry Street on the affordable housing they built at the top of Wellington Street. It was a low-rise and rather harmonious with an environment. It could have been bigger there, but here I advocate for a reduced build. So I was the person referred to by Ms. Crawley. I raised certain points. Obviously, there was the demolition of our valued historic property on 50 Center Street, one that Pat Zimmer wrote eloquently about in terms of its significance. I'm concerned that tenants have been evicted not only in that location, but elsewhere, as Cherry Street has paved the way for this one. It's a policy that the board I sit on is formally against. The loss of tree canopy, I think, is something that should concern us. Most cities are adding tree canopy in key places, and we're going to see destruction of more of the tree canopy. The request to run right up against what I'll call the Durkee property. Yes, it's owned by Cherry Street, but it will always be known as the Durkee property, really is a problem. You're running a parking lot so close to that beautiful historic building, and Don Durkee's rolling in his grave on this one, so I felt it necessary to go on record. I do not think that request should be granted. I think you're then impacting the neighborhood feel. I think talk of putting up a fence is a weird way to solve some of the issues, because that also kind of affects the character in a way that we haven't seen. I think it was a surprise, but Steve Blankenship will probably speak to it, that the porch was actually a main entrance, according to what we heard tonight. And that porch also comes very close to the sidewalk, so that's where there's also a request to change what is allowable under the bylaws. So overall, as I say, I'm a bit cynical standing here. I got a little bit choked up. As I say, I've never had a refuting of my arguments before I even spoke. But I felt it necessary. I think I'm asking that the council have a vision for the town. And this really is a unique historic square that we have. And sitting with Cherry Street and discussing it on the level of what is it the town wants. This isn't about affordable housing. You know, have a vision that can put that elsewhere. That's what I think a council is here for. And we'll see. I mean, your call.
All right, thank you, Ms. Grant. Have another member of the public come up.
My name is Hugh McKenzie. I sent 2 letters to council with respect to this a couple of days ago. I'm not going to reiterate what I said in the letters, but I oppose this for a lot of reasons. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I was a lawyer for 40 years, federal civil servant for 10. I know I've litigated in this area, but I've never been involved in real property reorganization, et cetera. It's just not what I did. But the fact is, in my view, this is a really poor, ill-considered proposal. It's ill-considered for all of the reasons I set out in my letters. And the reasons I repeated clearly what were the issues. So I would ask that please look again at those letters, consider what I said. I'm not going to spend 20 or 30 minutes reviewing them with you because you have them. They're clear, they're well written, and I would really appreciate an opportunity be taken by you to review them, consider them, because I feel very strongly about this proposal. Sydenham Street is a busy road. High-speed traffic. I've been at Blankenship's house. I've walked this area probably 7 or 8 times just to understand the property. And what I see are a lot of cars and a lot of traffic. And with a proposal here reduces the amount of property around this rather large, if you will, construction on what is, for that construction, too small a property. So what it's going to do, if you have 13 units, and there may well be children, I would anticipate, and those children would likely be younger children, and no matter what, you've got children accessible to high-speed traffic on Sydenham and on Centre Street. So for me, that is of concern. And I'm deeply concerned about what I think are ill-informed, ill-advised, overcrammed spaces. And that's what I set out in my letter far more eloquently than I can do now. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Anyone else?
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Blankenship. I live on Sydenham Street, 108, right in the middle of all the action that's happening. As my new neighbor George has got his severance made, so it makes it sure that it's busy on Sydenham Street, obviously now with the other variants being completed. Now with the build, my emphasis is basically on how congested it really will be. The build's probably going to go through, and there's nothing much I can do about that. I don't understand what, when it comes to rent, how do we break that down, Heather? Do we have it as geared, what is geared to income rent anymore? Is there such a thing? Now, for a nonprofit organization, you would think possibly they may have a few units that would be labeled as that, or is affordable rent the new term? Can anybody answer that?
Yeah, so the kind of legal term, I guess you could call it, would be affordable. So based on, there's a lot of finances that go into a project like this. Currently, the affordable rent is approximately $732 per month. So again, not necessarily geared towards income, but more so on the affordable side of things.
Well, I must say, at $700 and some odd dollars, that's pretty good rent. Anyway, the traffic study that maybe has been performed was not performed by a resident who lives in the heart of this area, as I can attest to that when the office and buildings and restaurants and so on that open up in the morning are definitely, all the side streets are filled with cars already. Now, that's just to say that the parking lot, the municipal parking lot across from the Old Town Hall is almost full. But these side streets do fill right up, no doubt about it. And with the new housing project that's going to go on Wellington Street beside the LCBO, there's going to be a lot more traffic there. And then if we happen to build a library downtown and we're going to lose those parking spots, there's going to be a lot of congestion down here. And I don't think that's really been taken into concern. It's been kind of blasted over as far as I'm concerned. But as I can stand in my backyard and hear a crash at the intersection of Centre and Sydenham at least once a week, I mean, that's the testimony of, I think we're overlooking this situation. And the safety of the pedestrians and the safety of the new residents of this building over here. So basically, it's a concern, more of safety, congestion, and everything else that's going to happen in this small area in the future. Our planning department, I do not think is prepared for this, or maybe I'm missing something on this proposal here, but all of it added together, town hall, library, in this general area with these new residents, it's going to be very congested. We'll see what happens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Blankenship. Anyone else? Has the clerk received any further communication?
We have not, other than the communication noted.
Okay. Are there any questions of clarification from council? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Ms. Crowley, you mentioned 70 to 79% is the factoring for affordable housing. It used to be an 80 number. Did Cherry Street revise that to the 70 to 79%? And secondly, my concern is parking. We recently went through a presentation to council with another medium-density building, and that was a parking issue to begin with, and it's a parking issue that continues now. This proposal advocates for one space. Could you clarify or help us understand better why you feel that one will be satisfactory? Thank you.
Yeah, so to your first question, I may have to get back to you on that. We do have a financial consultant that kind of went over the numbers in terms of average market rent and whether it's 70, 79. I know Heather was the one that spoke to that. I didn't necessarily speak to percentages, but I can get back to you on that in short order. But with regards to the parking, we did have a traffic consultant who specializes in affordable housing have a look at this as well. So essentially, a lot of affordable housing projects that we work on as an office in different municipalities find that there is less of a need for parking for the affordable units. So that would be the 12 units that we're providing. So originally, our plan was to kind of still provide enough parking for everybody, which is the one space per unit, noting that a lot of the affordable units, they won't need a space. So those kind of other 12 spaces, let's say, could also go towards visitors or potentially be used by those affordable housing units. So it really does speak to kind of the parking provided for both the market and affordable units. A lot of medium density housing is just market units. In that case, everybody needs a car. A lot of people have a car. They get a lot of visitors. In this situation, again, there's a lot of 1 and 2 bedroom, not necessarily larger families with multiple cars. But in other, I know, medium density developments, there's, a need for 1 to 2 spaces per unit because they have families or, a 2-income household with 2 cars might be necessary. But in this instance, given the market for the affordable and market units, we believe that only 1 space per unit would be required.
A follow-up, if I may? Regarding the parking spaces for the tenants, will they be assigned a specific spot, or will it be first come, first served?
I've seen it done both ways. So we haven't determined that yet. That'll likely happen as we move through site plan approval. I have seen it happen both ways. Sometimes it becomes problematic if they're assigned. So sometimes it is first come, first served. So as the units rent out, which, we do already have a lot of people that have contacted Cherry Street Housing with regards to renting out these units. But the parking hasn't been determined in terms of how they'll be allocated, but it might end up being a first come, first serve.
Anyone else on council? Councillor Chapman?
Through you, Mayor. I think this question would go to Cherry Street itself. Cynthia Grant had mentioned that there's a list and the people that could be living in the affordable housing could come from St. Thomas. So is this geared to Aylmer or is it the county?
I don't know if you want to speak to it, but I do know that there's currently 149, it's kind of the East Elgin area, so both St. Thomas and Elgin Social Services, there's a waiting list there, so that's kind of the area that it would service primarily. Wendell, did you want to?
Thank you. I'm just going to assist a little bit.
Have
My
your
name-
name, please? Wendell, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm helping doing some of the background project coordination for Cherish Street. So I'd like to address two things. First of all, your question first. In reaching out to social services, Elgin St. Thomas Social Services, that office represents all of Elgin County, not just St. Thomas. So the number that has been supplied is just those residents in East Elgin that are looking for homes. It doesn't include anybody in St. Thomas, it's just East Elgin that are looking for a home, okay? And I just want to come back to maybe to help clarify the financial piece, because I've been working closely with the financial folks in terms of the rent itself. And I can assure you that as part of the application to get senior levels of government funding for a project like this, whether it's Cherry Street or anyone else doing a project like this, there's a very stringent criteria, an equation that has to be met that defines what that affordable rent is. Cherry Street doesn't even get a choice on that. The government, you have to stick to their formula, which is around that $700 range. It can fluctuate a little bit year over year, but they capture the local economic and income stats and put that into the formula for Cherry Street. And as long as those, they're receiving the long-term funding commitments from the senior levels of government, they have to stick to that equation. They can't just raise the rents. That's an equation for them.
Yep. So social services determines the amount of money that is charged for affordable housing. It also determines the waiting list, right? Cherry Street had no say at all on who's on that waiting list.
Cherry Street can have some say, but I'm sure the priority is going to be for residents of East Elgin. We know there's a huge need. And they would work with social service to make sure that those folks indeed do qualify. They have to qualify as well to be in those units.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of clarification from Council? Councilor Rosier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you to the applicant, the consultant that was doing the report, as well as our staff and Cherry Street Development for bringing this project forward. I do empathize and understand with the residents that have brought these concerns forward, especially when it comes to the concerns surrounding the traffic and safety. I think those are legitimate concerns, and it's something that proactively the municipality should be keeping in consideration, especially as we continue to implement these larger density projects. Specifically addressing one of the comments from the public presenters about, council establishing a vision, I think that was a really good point to address. We have had other applications that have come forward to council with similar concerns that were presented, and council did do the due diligence of sourcing legal analysis. As we have established before, municipalities are a creature of the province. And to take that one step farther, I would say the province is responding to federal policy. Canada is intaking record numbers of immigrants into our country, and I think in turn the municipalities are absorbing those impacts. So for me, this isn't necessarily a problem for municipalities. We are simply the ones who are just managing the fallout. So with that, I would seek some clarification from perhaps our CAO or our planning department about the policies that we are having to abide by that are coming from the province top down. Thank you.
I'm not sure that we have a couple of hours to go through that. Do you have a cold version?
Yeah, I can say briefly that this is something that routinely happens, and it makes me feel for councillors and the position that you are put in. Something is brought before you as if you have the decision-making ability to approve or deny it, but essentially without having grounds for a proper appeal at the Ontario Lands Tribunal, you don't have much choice. The only thing is whether or not you're going to spend taxpayers' money to delay development by a year. So we're very boxed in by the province, and the province has given the illusion of choice, I would call it, at the local level, but there isn't much choice. It's whether or not you're going to essentially spend taxpayers' money to fight a losing case.
Thank you. Councillor Rahi.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Well said, Councillor DesRosiers. It was put together far better than it was going to come out of my mouth. I do have a couple comments. I do sympathize with everyone that's going to be in that area, because it is going to be busy with all of the growth that's going on. And looking at the parking lot, it is small, and I do see a parking problem. But then going back to Mr. Griselle, we really don't have any say in it, unfortunately. And I've said it before, I don't know why the heck we're all here if we don't have a say in it. But then I have an observation. I find it very interesting that we talk about affordable units, but does that make the other units not affordable? Is that how that works? It's kind of interesting, but we are in a crisis and we do need help. But that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to echo some of the thoughts of Councillor Rahi, council is between a rock and a hard place when it comes to this kind of intensification. Yes, there is a demand for higher density, and yet we still want to respect the existing property owners and the character of the area. Where it gets to be challenging even more so is, as Mr. Griselle said, we are the creatures of the province. I believe Councillor DesRosiers actually said that statement, but we are. And Shedden just went through a similar exercise in development that went to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and it was not even heard. So money that the taxpayers have to put forward was for no particular purpose. My concern on the parking is still there. I hope that the rationale of there won't be as many cars as in a regular development actually holds true. We are very much people that do not like change. There was a home of interest on the property that became derelict, and to restore it with a huge hole in the roof was just not practical. Where do you go from there? Cherry Street came forward. I know the mayor and I have met with the developers a couple of times over the last year to try and work out a compromise. Planning department has had a huge role in this, in making the best of a difficult situation as far as intensity goes. But I think in the end, it's probably a project that is within the merit of the municipality to embrace it. Cherry Street is a good landlord. They respect the tenants that they have, and the area is very suitable for a higher intensity development, as it is in the core area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Grant, I will allow one comment, one question short, please.
I think I've regained my voice. I will not go on at length. I am very concerned to hear that there is an institutional impotence because of a perception that you cannot oppose a bylaw change when it comes to distance. When they ask for an extra 4 meters on a property, that should not be an automatic because the province is deeming it so. Now, let me say, I will let go of all my opposition to the intensification, but I don't think you should change the bylaws that guide the distances on properties. And I say this, as I said, on behalf of Don Durkee, on behalf of the people who will live in those two places. You don't have to do that. Contrary to what you're being told, you do have some agency, some voice. You are not impotent when it comes to measuring land, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of clarification from council? Just want to make sure we're finished with this before I call the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could staff respond to that question? I feel like that was a question.
Well, I'd like to respond to it too, but I think, did you want to respond to it at all? You're talking about institutional impotence.
Yeah, I think it boils down to when we look at the application, you know, we don't, when you think of denying an application or amending parts of it, you have to consider the potential for appeal, and you consider the legal grounds that we would have to appeal. And, you know, we're in a situation where the province has continually removed our ability to have appeals. It used to be that residents could appeal it. Now that isn't. So now they're looking to us. But should the public purse fund appeals or things that we know are going to go to the OLT, and when we know that all we're going to do is spend money on legal fees and delay a development that will be approved. So I guess that's the challenge. The intensification is good in the province's eyes. Using that land or using the most of the land is good in the province's eyes. And I don't think there's any expectation that the OLT would see otherwise. I don't know if Heather has anything to add.
Heather?
Yeah, what I'm going to say is, as a planner, we have to look at, there's a balance that has to go on. You have to look at, what is the technical side of it? So the technical being the zoning bylaw, and what are all the, what is the proposal saying in terms of front yard setback, rear yard, exterior yard, lot coverage? That's why you see these charts in my reports and numbers. So there's the technical side of it, and again, that has to be addressed because it has to be addressed in order for a building permit to be issued. Council has to approve what they're, the reductions they're requesting in terms of the zoning bylaw. But then in planning, we also have to look at, you have to look at the broader picture of what is the overall purpose and intent of this development. This development is to provide much-needed apartment residential housing adjacent to our downtown core area. It's providing a suitable mix of affordable housing as well as average market rent housing in an area that people can walk to for their daily needs, you know, can utilize existing parks within a 5-minute walk, medical services, banking services, whatnot. So you have to kind of, as planning, we have to look at the balance between what are they asking for in terms of the requests for zoning deficiencies versus what is the overall intent and purpose, and what is the greater good for the community as well.
Okay, thank you, Heather. With that, with no further discussion, we'll have a resolution to adjourn the public meeting under the Planning Act.
Yep. The council does now close the public meeting at 8:02 p.m. and reconvene the meeting of council.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Rosier, Councilor Chapman. All those in favor is carried. Now, we have actually the resolution itself.
That report, Plan 19-26, regarding the Planning Evaluation Report application for zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 01-26, 103 Sydenham Street West, and 32 and 50 Center Street be received, and that the Council of the Town of Elmer approve the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 01-26 in accordance with bylaw number 47-26 and provide 3 readings to bylaw number 47-26.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Oslach, and Deputy Mayor Barber. Okay. Councilor Oslach.
Could we have a recorded vote?
Yes.
Councilor Rahe.
Yes.
Counselor Chapman.
Yes.
Counselor Desrosiers.
Yes.
Counselor Oslich. No. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Yes.
And Mayor Cookett.
Yes.
And the vote is carried 5-1.
Thank you. Next item would be Mr. Sarita, Chair of the Old Town Hall.
Mike's not here yet.
Mike's not here yet, so we'll defer that to later. We have the Old Town Hall Advisory Committee end-of-term update report. I think Chelsea's doing it.
If we could jump to the Christine.
Okay, oh, yeah, I think maybe we'll do that because Christine's been here all this time. So, Christine, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Okay, this is where I'm going to be technical, right? It's okay, no problem. Anyway, I'll start my preamble and then we'll get there once it's up on the screen there. Good evening. These are the draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2025. I'll go through my presentation like I normally do. Please don't hesitate to stop me and ask me any questions as I go through it. These are draft as under Canadian auditing standards until those charged with governance, which should obviously be this council, needs to approve them. So they are dated as of tonight's date. We have materiality here of $300,000, which means that's what we set as auditors, but we do not only look at transactions over that amount. Every transaction that goes through the town, be it payroll, purchases, or revenue, is statistically sampled into, and having done all of that work, we are convinced that this is a clean, what we call a clean audit opinion, and so presenting that on that basis. I'd also like to start by thanking the treasurer and her staff for all their help through the audit. There are very few journal entries done at the year end, which would indicate to you that as you get budget to actuals through the year, you're getting great financial information to be making decisions upon. All right, so what do I do? Oh, there, I've got it. Sorry. So this is the clean audit opinion, as I mentioned. So this is the statement of financial position being your balance sheet, and so I'll go through sort of the key indicators that I look at when I'm looking at financial statements. This line here, net financial assets. So I always say this is kind of my first go-to where I see where you're at the end of the year compared to the last year. And you can see there that there's been an increase from 2024. So this would be the amount that you would have in the bank at the end of the day if everybody paid you what they owe you and you paid off all of your debt, which obviously would not happen at any one given time. But it just gives you a clear picture of where you're at and an indicator of improving that. And then I go to the lines below, which is where we're investing in our capital assets. And I always preach on this particular issue, but making sure that we're reinvesting in our capital assets at least equal to what our amortization is. So our amortization, sorry, just going to put my glasses on here to read up close. There we go. So our amortization for the year was just over $2 million. But we added new assets of about $9.2 million, so overall increase just over $7 million between the tangible capital assets and the capital work in progress. So significant increase in assets this year, the main one being the water tower. So that was it was in the capital work in progress at the end of 2024, so it was in that $10 million number right here. And now it's up in our capital assets, and we now have some new projects. Basically, the SCADA system is in the capital work in progress at the end of 2025. So we've increased all of that, and then I go up to the debt, which I want to always make sure that we're not then incurring a lot of due debt to buy these assets. And in fact, our debt is decreasing, as you can see there. And when we get to the reserve funds at the end of end of this presentation, you'll see that these have also increased significantly from last year. So we've added a lot of new capital, we've not taken on new debt, and we've kept our reserves healthy. So those are really my three indicators that I look at. Of note for council, I will talk to you a little bit about this taxes receivable, as I audit a significant amount of municipalities, and yours is probably the only one I have I think there's one other one that your taxes receivable are staying very consistent. With all of the hardships, as was just heard, we've seen a lot of taxes receivable going up in the year, and this year, this is not the case in Elmer. So good financial policies within your staff and staying on top of this particular balance. So all of those things to say, has been a good financial year for the town. Any questions on that particular statement there? Nothing? All right, we'll move on to the next statement. So this is your statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So this shows the budget 2025 approved by council, the actual for 2025 compared to the actual for 2024. And I'll just go over some of the changes between the years and between budget, just to give you some reasons for those. The user charges is, I do want to comment on this. So as you remember from previous years, we take out 50% of EECC because you only own 50% of EECC. We add in the BIA because it is consolidated into the town, and we also add in approximately 98% of the Elmer Secondary Water Board. So all of those things play into these numbers a little bit when we get into the revenues and expenditures. The user charges, the main increase there is in water and wastewater, and as you know, those are retained within the separate surpluses for those as a reserve fund. And then the other revenue line item here under revenue, you can see there we had 2 significant land sales during the year that make up that. So those 3 things are the reasons for the increases there. Under expenditures, so as you remember, under the budget, we do not budget for amortization, and as I was mentioning on the other statement, amortization is 2.2 million, and so if you add that to what you actually budgeted for operating expenses, you're actually under budget in your expenditure area. Everything below that excess of revenue over expenditures relates to capital, and so it's not consistent from year to year. It depends on where the various capital projects are at a point in time. And so that line excess of revenue over expenditures, again, this is where you're looking at, are we raising enough money and to cover our operating costs, as well as that amortization, which is the using up of assets. And you can see here that we do have a surplus there of 5.3 million, and that then moves over to the reserves. Coming down to the accumulated surplus at the end of the year equal to what the balance sheet is, which is this number here. Oops, I went up. There we go. Any questions on that statement at all? I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but hopefully it's painting a picture. Nothing? Okay. I'll keep going. The next statement is your statement of cash flow. So this is the increases and decreases of the non-cash items on the balance sheet. And here's where we see, I've been rounding to the $2.2 million of amortization, the acquisition of the new assets of $18 million offset by the that was the water tower, as I mentioned, coming in from capital works in progress. So that net of $9 million of new assets. And then again, the repayment of the debt, the $505,000 repayment. So no new debt in the year. Coming down to the cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year. The next statement is your statement of change in net assets, and this is really just a drilling down more on the capital asset pieces. And again, I've gone through all of those numbers already, so I won't belabor that point. We then get to the notes to the financial statements, and really the one note I want to draw attention to, which I think council is most interested in, so I'm just going to find it here. So this first one here is your debt, and as you can see, the debt levy is very little on the actual tax rate. The rest of it is on water, wastewater rates, particularly water rates. And then the next note is this one here. So this is a breakdown of your surplus, as was mentioned. Your operating surplus was just over $600,000 this year that we moved over into the reserves as per your policy. And then these are all the reserves and reserve funds at the end of the year. And as you can see, there has been an increase this year. So I'm just moving to my own statement so I can see it better. So again, 19.4 million at the end of 2025 versus 16.7 million at the end of 2024. So a significant increase there of the reserves and reserve funds. Coming down to that accumulated surplus, and again, the investment in Earth, as you're all aware, you do hold shares in that corporation, and those audited financial statements are included in this numbers for your portion of that particular investment. And then at the back, we have two schedules. One is the schedule of, no, hang on, sorry, I'm going too fast here. Okay, there we go. The schedule of your tangible capital assets broken down by component, and as you can see, the linear assets is the major one, which would be expected, being water, wastewater, and roads. And then we have the segue between these financial statements and the FIR that's filed with the province, and break the revenues and expenditures broken down between the functions as prescribed by the province. And that is my, again, 50% of EECC, the 98% of the Elmer Secondary Water Board, the BIA, and then your portion of Earth are all consolidated in these financial statements. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you too, Christine. I just want to acknowledge the professionalism and respect that you exhibit to our people and is shared with their respect and professionalism for you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Anything else? I will say, I know some are not running again, and I just appreciate all of the support that I've received over the years here too. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's great. You nailed it. Nobody's asking a question.
Don't make this too easy on me.
Okay, so therefore, we have a resolution.
That the report respecting the 2025 financial statements be received as information, and that council approves the 2025 financial statements provided by Christine Scrimgeour and Company.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councillor Chapman, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Consent agenda. Resolution.
That the June 17th, 2026 consent agenda be received for information, and that the recommendations included within the staff reports be adopted, and that council approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 3rd, 2026.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Rosier, Councillor Rahi. Questions? Anything you want to pull out of there? First of all, Councillor Rosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 6.1.2, it looks like we have another concern from residents regarding traffic. I was just wondering if we would be able to pass that on to our Director of Infrastructure, who I believe is already looking into a couple other road-related items too. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Terry's looking at that already, aren't you, Terry?
Yes, through you. So this deals with Talbot Street, which we already at the last meeting had another traffic-related concern on Talbot Street. So if it's okay with council, I'd like to add it to that report and just include it on that overall report. We've already been proactively working on that, so if that's acceptable.
Okay, I think it is. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're going to mention 6.12 to go to Terry. We're receiving the minutes at this particular time. Is that correct? I'd like to speak just for a moment on 6.3.3. EECC Board regular minutes. The agenda that was publicly circulated on this particular meeting, including a reference to a report outlining the ramifications of changing the meeting spaces at the complex into another use. Very early in the meeting, actually just at the beginning, it was asked that that particular topic be deferred to another time, and the rationale to do so was based on a report that apparently was forthcoming. My question is, if I may, Have we received that report as of yet?
Staff, I don't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't aware that that was the rationale. I don't know of any other report.
As I recall, the statement of the presenter, the reason for deferring the discussion of that particular report that was already in the agenda was that there was new information that had come forward. Do you recall?
The mover of that motion for deferral would probably have to answer that. I haven't seen any other information myself.
Okay. All right. So that's something that we can follow up in some particular manner. Just for the record, it was reported in the local press that all of the board supported the deferment of that matter, and I, for one, did not and was prepared to speak at that particular meeting on the report itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I thought you were talking about 6.33. You were talking about 6.35, right? 6.35. Right, thanks. Anyone else? Councillor Rosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up to that those comments, as you are a co-chair for that board, perhaps you could make a comment about that as well too, because I think the public in general has been asking a lot of questions, and I did approach the chairs of the board about the potential of bringing this discussion back for public discussion, and I was given a written response to that involved you as the co-chair. So I just want to confirm that the direction that I was given is shared amongst both the chairs, and that was basically that the resolution was going to stand and not change course, and that inquiries from residents can be answered with a reminder of the resolution and the direction provided, and that they can also be told that the report was pulled as it did not fully correspond.
All right, well, in terms of the resolution that took place at the June 7th, or at the last complex meeting, that resolution did defer it until a new council took place, a new complex board took place, and I support that resolution. Basically, I guess that's the information that was passed on to you. All right. Now, the co-chair could ask for a special meeting. The Council of Malahide could ask the complex to have a special meeting. There are ways to put this back on the agenda, but I think the original resolution stands right now, that it will be brought back, but it will only be brought back after the election. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up to what you just mentioned, so is it just up to the one co-chair, or could both co-chairs sit down and decide whether or not this be brought back for a special meeting? Because I think it is something of public interest. There's a lot of people that are asking questions, and I personally don't have a problem with this coming back for public discussion. And I think it would be something that would require the leadership of the board, which is the co-chairs, to make a decision together.
You have a comment?
Can I, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important to understand here we're sitting as Elmer Council, and we have to respect the decision of the board as a separate entity. Staff were ready to have that discussion on that night, but the board made the decision to vote and to refer that to the next one, and next to the new board after the end of this term, and staff respect that. But for the board to come again, and for the purposes of perhaps having a notice of motion of reconsider and then doing another meeting, that's not something I think is really for us to question whether or not. I know the same members sit there, but I think we have to assume that the board knew what it was doing when it passed that motion.
Anything further? Okay, thank you. We haven't voted on this one yet. Anything else to be pulled and discussed on this? Okay, then I will call the question. All those in favor of this resolution? And that is carried. Thank you. Item 7, we've been sitting for an hour and a half. We have a couple of items left. Mike is here. Thank you very much for being.
Start with me, Mayor.
Mr. Sarita.
Thank you. You want me to do this?
Would you like me to do it?
Old habits die hard in terms of having somebody that did that stuff for me. So, well, thank you. My name is Mike Sarita, and I chaired the Old Town Hall Advisory Committee for the last 2 years. And it's my pleasure to present our final report that was prepared by staff. You have it in front of you, and it's on the board. Before we get going too far, I'd like to recognize the 3 citizen members that were on that committee. They were tireless. They were there every meeting. Cynthia, I can't complain about you being late ever again. Just no. I think we're square. So, Cynthia Grant, Ms. Fair, and Colleen Sawyer. Thank you for your work. Thank you for pushing. Thank you for ensuring that we consider the best for the committee and best for the town and the Old Town Hall. Thank you as well to the staff members who were with us on a regular basis. Owen, Chelsea, and I don't see Susie Ray. They were there almost every meeting, provided amazing support to the committee, actually began to work with us, not just as support, but in the trenches and working through the details. So thank you very much. And thank you, Jamie. You were there almost every time. Our dogs didn't fight the 2 times they crossed, so that was a good thing as well. So there are a number of places that I'd like to draw your attention to. If you take a look at page 4. Page 4 talks about our mandate. The town had laid out 3 areas where we were supposed to turn our attention: programming and utilization, planning and partnerships, and support and promotion. I think when you go through the report, you see that we achieved all 3 of our mandates, and we're successful in bringing new acts, new energy, and new enthusiasm to Old Town Hall. On page 5, you'll see that the town, during the mandate of the committee, hired a full-time community recreation and culture programmer. Susie has done an amazing job. You'll see this summer something that the committee is really quite proud of, and that's some arts programming for youth. There will be 2 summer camps of a week each, and if those are successful, then that will be expanded, maybe even within the summer, if there's enough of a waiting list for it. We also took a look at something called the Universe Booking Platform, and if you're out wandering with a dog, you'll notice all the different posters for all the different acts that are now coming into town. And that's because of that Universe program platform, in terms of other groups are calling the town, looking for a place to hold some sort of activity, often musical nights, and the place is booming in terms of the number of people there. If you look at the stats within the report, you'll see just how many extra acts have come into town. We did look at film screenings and projection systems. We spent quite a lot of time looking at that one. There was quite an enthusiastic delegation that came to us to take a look at that. Staff did a survey of the users that are currently using it. There just didn't seem to be the interest. But there now is a way to utilize the facility and a list of where people can get the equipment if they so need to use that type of program. As well, staff have created venue layout options so that now there's a package, so that when somebody calls the town and asks, what is it that we can do, there's a way of seeing. There's a way of being identified what the look of the hall will be. A number of facility improvements, HVAC upgrades in the AV booth and backstage area, installation of a new catering style fridge, and conversion of washrooms to gender neutral. Now, I got to tell you that the first performance of APAC after the gender neutral washrooms went into place caused a little bit of furor. Senior citizens like APAC kind of get messed up with that stuff, but we're figuring it out. It'll work. A user fee review that took a look at comparable facilities around town or around the province, and the liability insurance was a big issue for a number of community groups that use it on an occasional basis. And now the fee, rather than groups having to have their own insurance, it's built into the structure of the fees. And that helps most of the groups that come through town. As well, promotional materials for vendors, et cetera, that are in town, so that if somebody's putting on a wedding or wants to do a trade show, what's available? What's available in town that they can utilize the resources that we have here. Variety of different packages that have been created, if you take a look at page 7, in terms of social media. The Facebook page on now for the Old Town Hall is vibrant. It's getting traction, people are going to it, and people are finding out about the hall. Special events and performance packages have been created for people who want to rent it. Marketing brochures have been created, parking maps, and a light and sound inventory of what just is in the hall that could be rented if necessary. The rental and review statistics are quite encouraging. If you take a look at where it was a couple years ago to where the anticipated revenue is for this year, it's been very successful. So around 11,000 was the anticipated 2026 year revenue, and about 110 or so rentals, which is a significant improvement over past years. If you take a look at 25, that's about 15 more rentals and about another $3,000 into the coffer. And if you take a look back to 24, it's significant. It's triple or 4 times. So what's the vision for the facility? The committee sees the Old Town Hall being a hub for local arts, culture, and events. It is the heart of Elmer. It is the center, and it, along with a library, would be a vision that we would look at in terms of going forward for a multi-use, multi-function type of facility downtown. We're looking at modernized renter access, signage, and wayfinding, and washroom upgrades when possible. So in terms of the committee, we don't see, although our mandate is over, we don't see the need for a committee to be over. We see that there needs to be the continuation of some sort of supporting committee for the hall to act as an advisory board. So ensuring that the facility remains flexible and adaptable and how space is allocated and used over time. The fact that right now it's a blank slate and it can be whatever you want it to be on the night. Furniture is movable, tables are movable. If there was a possibility of expanding it, then some place where catering services could be done on site would be beneficial. But those are the kinds of things that we envision in the future. We're looking at maximizing public benefit through responsive community-centered planning and decision-making, and representing public perspectives and serving as a voice for the community. We see council adopting some sort of committee structure going forward and putting out, the required advertisements for people to sit on the committee, establishing a new mandate, and then looking at a bright future for the Old Town Hall and the support committee for this group. Thank you. Take any questions that you have for me or the committee at this point.
Thank you, Mike. Certainly thanks to the committee for the monumental task of increasing the Old Town Hall. You've done a great, tremendous job, so thank you to the committee. Any comments from council before we move on? Deputy Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank our community members. We had a rough start when this committee first started. It was very...
I was glossing over that.
It was very defensive, and to think where we've come now, we have a very good group and very creative-minded, and we stepped out of the box and came up with some really cool ideas, and I'd like to see this committee move forward.
It's a well-oiled machine at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you. I concur with Councillor Chapman that that you folks have made baby steps forward and to keep it going into the future.
Councillor DesRosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I think it's something that's worth a continuation. My question to the chair of the committee currently, though, would be what are some of the future goals and objectives that the committee would like to pursue in the future? Thank you.
So given that this committee doesn't exist anymore, that would be something that once a new committee is struck, we would come together with council, council representatives and staff and see where it is that we need to go forward. We took our direction from council. We anticipate that that's what would happen again.
Okay, thank you. We have a resolution.
That the delegation from Mike Serrata regarding the Old Town Hall Advisory Committee end of term report be received for information.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Rahi. All those in favor is carried. And I believe we have a staff report that complements the committee at the Old Town Hall. Right, Chelsea, you're doing that one?
So through you, Your Worship, a lot of the detail in that report was covered by Mr. Serrata in his presentation, but we're happy to answer any questions that council may have relating to that report.
Okay. Any questions further from council? Seeing none, we have a resolution.
That report clerk 21-26 entitled Old Town Hall Advisory Committee end of term report be received for information, and that council endorse the Old Town Hall Advisory Committee end of term report, end of term recommendations in the report.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Ozelach, all those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. Okay, go back to action items. I believe we've been sitting for an hour and a half. Do we plow ahead, or do you want a little break? We'd like a 5-minute break. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Item 7, Director of Financial Services, Workplace Policy Updates. We have a resolution.
That report, HR 05-26, Workplace Policy Updates, be received for information, and that council endorse 3 new HR policies. HR 113, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. HR 8.6, Employment Standards, Job Protection, and Leave of Absence. And HR 3.1D, Volunteer Policy.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman and Deputy Mayor Barber. Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and to members of council, the report you have in front of you this evening with the 3 HR policies being introduced for consideration and endorsement are relatively new, or they're brand new, sorry. They're relative to each other in the respect of the volunteer policy is the biggest one here with, it'll support the Old Town Hall initiatives. So a lot of the policies were co-authored by Susie, Owen, Michelle, Ruth, and then Taya, of course. So HR policies are existent here to provide the standardized framework for the rules and values and expectations of the workplace and behavior. We'd like those to extend to our volunteers. And HR policies also assist with legal compliance and risk mitigation. So HR and legislative services policies are monitored for changing legislation, municipal best practices, HR trends to remain compliant. And therefore, this council for review tonight, as we would like to respect the employment law and the scope of the changes and policies that need to be amended and created. So the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy, we are a part of the Elgin County. We have resources at Elgin County for DEI that we needed a baseline policy for them to consider. So this is a new policy that we will outline and send through our staff for approval and endorsement. So by adopting this policy, we are committed to fostering an environment where processes and programs are impartial and fair, a wide representation of identities, backgrounds, and experiences are considered, which is diversity, and an organization culture of belonging is valued and promoted, which is inclusion. The next policy is basically just an update with all of the changes in legislation regarding statutory leaves of absence. So we included this policy for the benefit of employees and managers about various job-protected leaves of absence that are available for eligible employees under ESA or Employment Standards Act. The application of this procedure, roles and responsibilities, and the impact to the benefits is outlined in the report and the policy. The town of Elmer recognizes there are times that are needed to be absent from work for personal matters that are beyond your control. And then the Ontario government provides a variety of job-protected leaves of absence under the ESA for this purpose. The leaves are then unpaid by the employer, however, they're funded by the employment insurance benefits. So job-protected leaves when the employee returns from leave must be reinstated with the same job they had before, or a comparable job to the employee's old job no longer exists for a comparable salary. In either case, the employee must be paid at least as much as they were earning before the leave. So by adopting this policy, we are providing the information to staff for leaves of absence options if they're required. The most exciting policy is the volunteer policy. So the volunteer policy is probably came out of that Old Town Hall Committee. They want to use volunteers. So with Taya and the investment in recreation programming and Susie driving this, there will be opportunities for volunteer hours to be verified. We'll have a formal policy for volunteers to apply. References may be wanted for employment opportunities for some of the students that we may recruit through volunteer opportunities. And the workflows will be presented through Laserfiche in order to have an application system and retention and onboarding for any volunteers. So we have, from the HR perspective,
We have the waivers ready. We have, Owen and I have done the due diligence on the insurance side to make sure that we're covered. We did make a couple of small changes with our insurance provider to make sure that our volunteers are covered. Police service also just coincidentally updated their user fees for vulnerable sector checks. So basically, we'll be able to keep our records in a centralized application system. Also, our very own Susie Ray is on what's called a volunteer Elgin group. So she's on the executive committee for that. And now with the town having a policy to provide to the volunteer Elgin, they're able to endorse and consider us as being part of that process. So the volunteer Elgin has the opportunities at the regional level for discussion, and then we needed that local policy in order to start funneling people through our application and framework and process. So basically, we're going to be able to post our job opportunities through volunteer org in the volunteer capacity, draw from everybody around Elgin County, and they'll go to our own Laserfish application system. So I'm here to answer any questions. Ruth's going on vacation, which is why I'm trying to get through these policies, but Owen also has been quite involved in the volunteer policy, so I think between us, we should be able to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you. Council? Councilor Chapman.
Through you, Your Honor, I just want to say thank you to staff for doing this, especially the volunteer section. The committee for the Old Town Hall came up with some really brilliant ideas, and those ideas require volunteers to help run them. And this just complements us very well. So thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no further questions, all those in favor of the resolution, that is carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, Director of Financial Services, the Annual Investment Report. We have a resolution.
That report, Finance 09-26, entitled Annual Investment Report 2025, be received for information, and that the annual IPS be reviewed.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Oslach and Councilor DesRosiers. Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and to members of council, the report you have in front of you this evening summarizes the interest income received on the investment and the interest income received on all bank accounts that the town holds. The appendices to this report are fairly comprehensive, but I wanted to summarize. The town generates investment income in the form of an interest income, net of market changes from reserve accounts as follows. So we have a CIBC HISA. I had opened up this high interest savings account purely as a vehicle to move funds between our one JIB investment and our bank accounts. It's so there's a balance of $40,000 in there. I left it in there to keep it open. We retained $1,300 of interest income on that account. The bank account reserves generated almost $860,000 worth of investment income or interest income. Our trust LOCs generated $36,000, and our town operating bank account generated $175,000. Our one prudent investment income account has around $2 million in it. It generated earnings of $265,000. And then, of course, I had to wait for this report because we have to wait for the Earth AGM every year to report the dividend of $154,000 for the Council Initiatives Reserve. So the Earth dividend moves directly to the Council Initiatives Reserve. The rest of the reserve income gets split between a weighted average between all reserves, including the obligatory reserves. And Council should be very proud of establishing this partnership with the being one of the only 21 participating municipalities across the province that holds investments in one JIB. So you took a chance, you allowed them to invest for us. We made $265,000. This is the second year in a row that had a great return. That every dollar that you guys have raised through this stays in the reserves. It funds all of the capital projects that you'd like to do. So the town does have access through the management of these funds through the OneGIB. The reality is that these are funds that are basically otherwise foregone. They're not having to be raised by taxes. And I just wanted to share a statement that the OneGIB had asked me, the One Investment team had asked me to provide them a statement for their presentation for their material to showcase, how a small municipality can basically invest. And so they used Elmer as an example, and I think this sums up perfectly. So this is what I said. Being a small municipality, we don't have the luxury of having a large team. By moving the investment to Prudent, the portfolio now accesses stronger investments and professional advice that would otherwise be unavailable. The town now has the potential to make better returns. Every dollar made on these investments is one less raised by the tax rate increase that helps fund future capital projects in our community. The demographic of the municipality is young working individuals, low income or geared to income seniors. If the town can make some extra money by investing these incomes with our reserves, we can help these taxpayers directly. The transition to Prudent, so Prudent Investment, was remarkably simple. So the One Investment team was so fantastic to help with providing templates, advice, and analysis that the average person could understand, which allowed our council to be supportive and make the recommendation to go Prudent. The best thing about collaborating with their team is the access to the investment experts and other leaders willing to share templates and experience. So that said, this town should be proud, this council should be very proud of having endorsed the investment opportunities, and it's paying off for the residents, as you can see by the rates of return. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions of council.
Council. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Heather. Quick math, OneGIB generated about 11% interest. Could you describe for council the makeup of the board that makes the investment decisions for OneGIB?
Certainly, through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Barber. So this board is made up of 12 members currently right now. One of them is a municipal treasurer from Aurora. She's fantastic. She's got the municipal experience, and that's a requirement of the board, is to have a municipal treasurer on it. Several other members are retired. One of them is retired from Ontario Securities Commission. Several other ones are CPAs, CFAs, MBAs, Masters of Economics, all sit on the board as advisors. And basically, our investments are housed through that board through an OCIO PH&N, which is essentially RBC fund management. So we have access to all these professionals. Basically, the management fee is about $750 a year. And they're held to an accountable standard. Everybody's designated. Everybody understands the prudent policies, the Municipal Act, and how we are pigeonholed to make sure that we are investing prudent.
Follow-up, if I may, Your Worship. Heather, in your experience, would you recommend that the next council revisit the amount of our commitment to this fund and review it?
Certainly, through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Barber, great question. I would definitely recommend that we review the next capital budget file because we don't want to give them too much money and then have our capital initiatives change. But we also potentially can use some of the money that we've made on the interest of the bank accounts and move that over. We potentially can, invest in or add more money just in short-term funds versus long-term. The way that we have it invested right now is the way I would invest my own funds, which is, I believe, the flavor of this council, which is very conservative, slow and steady growth. The next council may change what their initiatives are, but at this point, the way that this has been invested has paid off for this council, and I would suggest that they definitely relook at an additional contribution to this board.
Councilor DesRosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report notes a significant portion of the interest income was generated because of grant funding that was received in advance of project expenditures. Should council expect this level of investment revenue to decline as these capital projects are completed?
Through the mayor to Councillor DeRosier. Good question. We actually had advanced HUSIF funding of 1.14 million, which we didn't realize we were going to get advanced. We also just received 1.9 million for HSWS. So with the timing of the projects and the timing of the funds coming in, yes, these reserves are artificially high currently, but with the cash flow management that we review when we look at the capital budget, I think we can determine, a baseline balance that we need to keep these reserves at. The the interest income, the bank account interest income in 2025 wasn't near, what it was the year prior, and we still made it was 859,000 versus $1 million. So I would expect that as the balances of the reserves decline, they will, the interest income will obviously decline, but it also depends on the Bank of Canada rate. So, and depends on how much more we want to invest. So right now, we're winning in all avenues, but yeah, good point. As the bank counts, or as the reserve bank counts decline, we will have a decline in interest income.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the report? Carried, thank you. 7.3 CAO Social Services Homeless Supports Resolution.
That report, CAO 3026, entitled Social Services Homeless Support Locally, be received for information.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber and Councillor Chapman. Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quite brief on this one. This one originated from a motion that was presented by Councillor DesRosiers. It led to a lot of fruitful discussions with the CAO of Elgin County and the city manager of St. Thomas. And we're certainly supplemented by some broader discussions going on about social services funding and homeless supports province-wide, certainly AMO's positions currently. So it was productive, but it is a very complex area. One of the takeaways was that they really want to try to work some of this stuff into the broader plan that is going on right now, and the broader planning to make sure that there is coordination amongst local groups, there is easy avenues to find information. But also, I should add that the City of St. Thomas did offer to come and do a training session with our council if you wanted. Certainly, I'd usually suggest pushing that to the next term because I try not to do training with the council in their last months. But certainly, it's up to you if you would want me to invite them here sooner. But social services and homelessness are always an important issue. They've been an important issue here since I started with Mary French, and you certainly raised them as well at the county level. So it is something we'll continue to work on, and I know as a community we are somewhat lucky. There was, I believe, around 1,200 to 1,400 homeless encampments across the province in 2023, and a lot of those have been broken up and moved to smaller communities. And not to say that we don't have some issues here, but we have largely avoided the large encampments, and that's due to local community groups, the police, and social services supports. But that doesn't mean that issues like transient homelessness aren't occurring, often referred to as couch surfing. There are issues of supports needed, and it's certainly important to make sure Aylmer continues to be prioritized, even though the consolidated service manager has quite limited resources. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions Council has.
Councillor Rosier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report, CAO. Through my conversations with ECAP and other social service organizations, the reoccurring concern isn't necessarily the lack of services, it's a lack of communication and coordination. This report acknowledges the importance of collaboration and states that community engagement should continue through the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. But organizations like ECAP have indicated that they were not aware that aware of those processes and have not been included in discussions. So my first question would be, what specific actions will be taken as a result of this report to improve communication and collaboration with local organizations, and what is the timeline for those actions? Thank you.
Yeah, great question, Councillor Desrosiers. I think when I raised that exact point with the CAO and city manager, their concern is that the amount of agencies involved, so if it's a heat emergency, that's the public health unit. If it's something requiring a domestic situation, it requires the police, or sometimes there's paramedics involved. So they said that is really something that they need to work out on how those agencies will communicate first and make a plan at the community well-being first, and then lay that out to the local grassroots groups. So they are aware of the issue, and they're aware that it needs to be something that is addressed. And in the interim, what they suggested is that certainly any local group that wants to reach out to social services can and will get the kind of contacts or supports that they need. So if it's somebody who doesn't know who their point of contact is, put in a call to their office, and if they don't get it resolved, let us know, and we'll bump it up the chain until they get who they need.
Just a follow-up to that, thank you very much. Just to point to the training that was offered for council, I think it's less to do with the need for council to be trained and more about creating those opportunities for strengthening communication, coordination, and information sharing. So through you, Mr. Mayor, would staff support a community roundtable to support these efforts and these organizations?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think, so it is a challenge because the City of St. Thomas is the consolidated service manager. It is a challenge to get what we want from them without them. I proposed that we could do a roundtable, and they did not seem as receptive to that as continuing with the community well-being plan and trying to incorporate this in there. I can certainly go back to the CAO's table. City of St. Thomas attends every meeting. I think I've got one on the 29th, so I can share the outcomes of this discussion with them and raise it to see if it's an option again.
Councillor Chapman?
Something that I'm aware of but does not get brought to council is there's a report that goes to the county from social services, and it doesn't get presented to council. So in the future, can we have those reports brought to us in the consent agenda? Yeah.
Sure, I think so. There.
Through the mayor, we could request that from the county, yes?
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that didn't happen before this term of council was that social services did not report at all to county council. At least they do this twice a year now, because I really pressed for that to happen. One of the things that is an issue with what we're talking about here is, you have this committee called the Community Safety and Wellbeing, on which Elmer is a representative, mainly because we have our own police force, and it's, there's 18 different agencies right now on that committee. So we're at the point of sharing information and gaining information and learning how to communicate with each other and whatnot. And I'm sure that committee would expand if there's people if there's organizations that wanted to be part of that committee. But the next step is to, develop some kind of an action plan. I think maybe that's what Councilor Desrosiers is talking about, is some kind of an action plan. And that committee is working on it, and it's a humongous task because of the number of agencies involved and the number of different kinds of overlap there are between the agencies. So well, if there's an issue with communication, I think work through that committee, and that committee is headed by Carolyn Cron of the county. So she's a great contact person if you have issues with communication issues or where you're supposed to go and that kind of thing. Okay. The social services report is, of course, part of the agenda, and people can access that by going to the county, but it would be a lot easier if we included it. You're right. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution? And that's carried. Thank you. And do we have any new business or matters of urgency? Seeing none. Bylaws.
That council gives 3 readings to and approves bylaw 41-26, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 72-25, being a bylaw to establish fees and charges for the corporation of the town of Elmer. Bylaw 42-26, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the corporation of the town of Elmer and Clogger, Canada for the supply and installation of a rotary screw compressor at the EECC. Bylaw 43-26, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the corporation of the town of Elmer and Adidas Impacts Limited for the supply and installation of rubber flooring at the EECC. Bylaw 44-26, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on June 3rd, 2026. And bylaw 45-26, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding with the YMCA of Southwestern Ontario for resident access to aquatic programs. Bylaw 46-26, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 72-23, being a bylaw to regulate the traffic and parking within the town of Elmer, and bylaw 47-26, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 57-99, being the zoning bylaw of the town of Elmer, zoning bylaw amendment number 01-26, 103 Sydenham Street, and 32 and 50 Center Street.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber and Councillor Chapman. Any comment from council? Excuse me. Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried, thank you. Inquiries by members? Seeing none. Statements by members? Councillor DesRosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This Saturday is the second annual Elmer Community Festival that's happening in our downtown park system, Balmoral to Kinsman. We've got a kids zone that's operating 10 a.m. to 2. We've got 10 different food trucks that are going to be set up on Myrtle Street, a vendor market, ball hockey tournament, baseball showcase, park yoga, live music. There's a lot of stuff that's happening, and I really hope to see our dignitaries out in attendance. We also have a dunk tank activity that's operating from 11 to 2. That's in partnership with the Elmer Corner Cupboard. And I myself will be in that hot seat from 1:30 to 2. So bring your toonies, try your luck, and all the proceeds are going towards our local food bank. Thank you.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Elmer Police Services Board received the following inquiry at its June 12th meeting. At their regular meeting held on June 3rd, 2026, the Council of the Town of Elmer referred the following matter to the Elmer Police Service Board for discussion. Concerns related to commercial truck traffic in the downtown, enforcement practices related to the bypass routes, and potential opportunities to improve compliance. The following response was provided. Deputy Chief Johnson responded noting that besides this inquiry, no complaints regarding heavy traffic in the downtown core have been received by the Elmer Police Service in the past 18 months. Complaints should be directed to the Elmer Police Service in order to be investigated. Although there is a heavy truck route, it does not apply to traffic traveling east to west or vice versa on Talbot Street, Highway 3. The Ontario Ministry of Transportation is currently conducting a study to review existing conditions along the highway between St. Thomas and Elmer that will explore potential route alternatives. This may provide a solution to heavy truck traffic in the downtown. The Elmer Police Service began a traffic project on Monday, June the 8th, in response to this inquiry. Respectfully, the Elmer Police Service Board.
Okay, thank you. Getting late. I have a couple of quick things as a report. First of all, I just wanted to dispel a bit of a rumor that is out there in the media, and I guess it was also in a letter to the Express today, that there's an issue with the relocation of the library during construction. Now, there is an 8-word statement in the last report by the engineers and the architects talking about relocation of the library during construction. But in talking to the engineers and the architects, there is no requirement by the engineers or the architect that relocation must take place. It is simply a boilerplate statement, or a template kind of statement that is included in Class D estimates. So there is no requirements. I repeat, there's no requirement that relocation would take place. So rest assured. Along with that kind of statements that I see in the media, still the statements that, give us the facts, and I'm in favor of the facts, and we should be giving the facts. This particular project on behalf of the town has given more facts than any other building that we've ever built. We have been totally transparent about everything. When we built the police station, when we built the fire hall, when we built the complex, there wasn't this much discussion or facts that were given out by the town. So we have been very, very diligent in providing facts. So be careful what you read. That's all. If you want the facts, talk to the town. Secondly, as you saw in the news somewhere, that we sold 20 acres of land in Ames Park, which is a phenomenal number, by Linden Doors. They are going to start building as soon as they can. And the projection is they're going to have 100 to 150 new full-time employees. So it's quite a plus for Elmer, quite a plus because, we're a small community surrounded by places like Tillsonburg and Woodstock and St. Thomas, all of which Linden Doors did look at, but they chose Elmer, despite the fact that, our DCs are a little high or whatever, but there's all kinds of other factors that go into building here in Elmer, and they chose Elmer, so we should be proud of that very fact and proud of the staff that could make this happen, including the county, who was helpful in arranging the meetings with Linden Doors. So welcome, Linden Doors, and some point in the future we will be having a ceremony to mark the occasion. Are there any notices of motion? Meeting close to the public, resolution.
The council moves into a meeting closed session at 9:19 PM for the purpose of considering Director of Financial Services Report HR 04-26, Job Evaluation Process and Salary Grid Changes, and Report CAO Report 29-26 respecting the EECC agreement, and that consideration of these items is closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2) B, F, and K of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matters pertain to personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Rosier, Councilor Rahi. All those in favor, is carried. There will be brief recess before we go into close. Okay, welcome back. We have a resolution from closed.
The council rise from a meeting closed to the public at 9:33 p.m. and reports the following: that council received report HR 04-26, job evaluations, and report CAO 29-26 EUCC agreement, and that council provided confidential direction to staff.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councillor Chapman. All those in favor? It's carried, and resolution to adjourn.
That council do now adjourn at 9:34 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Councillor DeRosier, Councillor Oslach. All those in favor? It carried. See you next year. No, next month.